Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Command Post. My name is Sharp, and I'm joined by Nightpen
Hello.
and Jack Magnum.
Laugh it up, Fuzzball.
So, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Skeleton Crew, going over the episodes, what we think, what we like, what we don't. And so, just to get it out of the way, spoiler warning for episodes 1 through 4. This will be part 1, and once all the episodes are out, we'll be doing part 2, and we'll be giving our thoughts on the whole series then. But we want to give our thoughts on what's going on now. Do we like it? Are we interested?
First half of the show is out, and we've seen it with our eyes.
So, who wants to take episode 1?
Yeah, episode 1, titled "This Could Be a Real Adventure." I think this was a really, really good start to the series. I mean, all of these characters, um, the kids are like really, uh, they're interesting characters, but they're also like clearly, children who are just trying to understand the world around them. Um, that get caught up in this, big old grand adventure, and I think that's really fun.
The very beginning of episode 1 really caught me off guard. I was going in expecting, fun kids adventure, and the very start is just, it kind of starts dark and gritty with the pirate crew. Um, yeah, when Silvo raids the Republic ship and they're trying to steal the credits for themselves, but you know, it was a full fight, and I wasn't expecting them to go for that right at the start of a child's show, but that kind of got me more excited for the series as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. Also, just the thing that really stuck out to me was the one shot where one of the pirates got like shot in the eye and just no reaction, as like there's just a hole in his eye now. I was like, yeah, that's a pirate.
Yeah, I also wasn't expecting like that's where we were gonna start. Like the trailers they showed, the kids, like the planet, the adventure. So I figured like like that first scene like was very different. I expected it to like start off with the kids, so that kind of like surprised me as well. I did like to um I did like to see the background of like what their day-to-day life is. It was very interesting. Like it they did take a very interesting new take with Star Wars and doing something a little more uh Earth-like, which I know some people don't like. Some people are on the fence about that, but I think they did it fairly well. And like even from the first episode, like you can tell like there's something different about the planet. Like something is going on that you just can't like something's like under the surface.
Yeah, there were
Yeah,
little things here and there all throughout it, and the one that really stuck out to me was the security camera droids. Those
yeah,
really
Yeah.
screamed like overbearing authority that is, has a control over society, and we haven't really gotten there yet. We haven't gotten to the reveal of what was it? The supervisor, was that the name?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we haven't got to know what they are, who they are. And I'm very interested. It made me go like, "Huh, this is probably a little bit deeper of a story than I was expecting."
Yeah, I agree. The whole like security camera droids, like, and the overbearing, like this unknown supervisor and like the great work and all of that. It's just like it's very interesting, and yeah, there's something just kind of off about it, which I think is why. And like Nightpin said, there's just kind of this unease about like the setting on at Atten. Um and I think the suburbia feel, like, it really works there because, suburbia is just kind of weird, and there's always like, I mean, there's like the whole like neighborhood watch thing and all that, so it just kind of fits.
Yeah.
Also just starting with like this like, fun little kids adventure,
I
like
absolute
kids. But
I absolutely loved where they had the little scene of Wim and Neil having a little imaginary lightsaber fight. Because that
Oh,
just
that
took
was
me
so
back
cute.
to when I was a little kid, going with my friends with little plastic lightsabers or sticks or whatever we could find, making the noises ourselves. And,
yes,
that definitely felt very like on brand for, hey, these are kids in the Star Wars universe.
yeah,
They're going to idolize the Jedi because we
yeah.
idolized the Jedi when we were kids.
Exactly. Yeah, very, very relatable. And then yeah, all of it coming to a climax as the ship, that they find takes off, and what's his name? Wim's dad just kind of watching there helplessly because he didn't believe his son.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I don't want to skip out on the girls. Fern and KB's introduction was
Of
also like
course.
pretty cool, seeing like a little bit of, I think they're supposed to be older kids or at least like a year older.
I believe so, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, it really gave like a like 80s like feel, like like all those troublesome kids that like rope in like the nerdy ones. Like it was really fun. I
Yeah.
really like that.
Yeah,
yeah,
clearly very, very Goonies inspired, that kind of genre. And I'm very here for it. This is kind of what I mean, where I'm like, you can take any genre of movie and put it in Star Wars, and you can make something really, really cool and really, really unique. And I feel like that's exactly what this is doing.
one other thing that I did enjoy, the very like the final parts of episode 1, them finally getting inside the ship and you know it upsets me when I see a character do something stupid, but also just Whim. Uh, he's a kid. He's excited with what he found, and him pushing buttons and not knowing what's going on, and it just it felt very much like what a child would do if he found a spaceship. If he's been like
Yeah.
super nerdy about spaceships and getting out of his situation, and I
Yeah.
was surprised at now at how not upset I was about it because I generally hate that character archetype, no matter the age.
Hmm.
And seeing his dad out in the forest watching them take off. It was a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
sad, but also felt a little deserved for him considering he's been leaving his kid for work all day
Yeah.
every day.
But
Yeah.
that also I feel like goes into the almost dystopian nature of whatever the great work is, and like the supervisor and all that. So I really am excited to see it all come to a head later on.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really intrigued by that as well.
I'm also just going to say that there's probably a lot of kids, unfortunately, that can relate to that type of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully it gives them a little bit of solace knowing they're not the only ones because they have a
Yeah.
little bit of themselves in a show. But
Representation matters.
yeah, so moving on to episode 2. I
Episode
absolutely love
2.
I absolutely loved the introduction of SM33. I love his character so far.
He's
And
so good.
pirate robot, hello?
Exactly. Is he okay? I is he an Imperial like security droid? Or am I just thinking that they look similar? Like from Rogue One. Oh my gosh,
K2SO.
what's his name? K2SO. Is he one of those, or is he not one of those?
Uh I don't know. His model number is a different designation, but he could be like a modified version,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know
He
if that
looks
was just me.
Yeah, I'm looking at a photo of him right now, and he looks a little more stocky.
Okay.
Like I think he would be a different model.
Sure. Gotcha. Okay.
I could see it being like an earlier model though that they like modified. I don't know if that's actually
Mhm.
a thing, but he does have a peg leg.
That is
So
true.
Yeah, he is a pirate. Probably replaced a lot of parts.
Yeah. But yeah, SM33 Smee, so good. Such a cool character. Very, very fun.
yeah, I think Star Wars just pretty much always hits with the droids.
We love droids.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
droids are always great, and just the pirate feel that he gives, and obviously the reference to Smee, like that. It's so fun. Like they truly like they wanted to create like a pirate feel to the show, and he definitely gave it a good start.
And then as the episode progresses, the starport that they end up at, it felt very much like what it would be to have four kids walk into an outer rim,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
A pirate island, essentially, is
yeah.
what it is.
yeah, I was very worried for them the entire time they were there.
Yes. It was very, worrying, but um I think it was also, the start of the mystery of no one knows at Atten really. You know, because like when we meet Smee, he's like, "Oh, I don't remember at Atten," and you're like, "Oh, old worn down droid. Of course, there would be things he doesn't know." But once we're like talking to people and nobody knows and like are laughing in your face when when you bring up this planet, it's like, oh, what is going on here,
Yeah, not only do they not like know that the planet like truly exists, like they think it's like a mystical planet with lost like hidden treasure.
Yeah.
So that like you have to like think like these kids are probably like, well, what's on our planet? Like why have we not like interacted with other planets? Like what's going on? But yeah, them talking to the cook and him giving like the old republic credits, like as soon as they mentioned old republic, I was like, oh, like what is going on here? Like that's very like for old republic credits to like come into play, and like if we're in the time of the new republic, like that's a huge time difference. So I'm like very curious like what happened to Anahan.
Yeah, at that point, it had told me, okay, now I want to know exactly what is the barrier, what is the supervisor, what is the great work, like, how is it, why is this planet isolated?
Yeah.
What's
Exactly.
going on
Yeah.
here? Made me very interested.
Yes. Yeah, that like it turned from, oh, this is like a fun, little adventure, like kids adventure set in Star Wars to, oh, this could have some pretty like big lore implications,
Yeah.
which I love. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
I I think Star Wars like moving and like expanding like the timeline, just like getting out of like the small couple of years that we like know and love. Like I think I think that's really good. Like exploring things outside of what we already have. I there's so much they can do. We have a whole galaxy, we have a whole timeline. We
we
haven't
have two
even gotten
galaxies.
Yeah, we have two galaxies now, but we haven't really explored outside of the end of the Republic, and during the Empire and the New Republic. So yeah, I mean people have been shouting out there like wanting Old Republic content for a very long time. So if this is like their way to, put that in there and start that, I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of different eras of Star Wars could benefit from a Clone Wars style show to expand. Just give us characters that we care about and
Yes.
battles that we remember. And that could be a whole video topic on its own.
Hmm.
But like, I want to care more about just the Clone Wars. You know, we have clone avatars here. Clearly, we're big prequel fans, as you can tell from our tier list.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like the rest of the timeline could use the same type of love and attention, and I think it
Yeah.
has the potential for it.
Yeah. I mean, but getting back to Skeleton Crew, I think this is like such a good thing because it I believe this is taking, place during the New Republic, so this is also just like establishing more of that lore in that time period while also still like being able to touch on like old Republic stuff, which I think is really interesting to be able to use this show to almost tie those two very different eras together. And I think so far, I think it's doing it very well in a very interesting way.
Yeah, I'm ready for us to finally get back to Atten, and
Yes.
most likely they're gonna get followed. That's got to be part of the story. Or
Yes.
our guy Silvo, which we haven't talked about yet,
Yes.
is going to, somehow, some way disrupt what's going on at Atten. And I'm very
Oh,
curious to see how
absolutely.
the supervisor and the barrier come into play with that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the supervisor is some sort of like droid intelligence thing that has just like assumed like almost like an Ultron kind of thing of like, oh, the best like thing to do is to just cut the planet off from everything kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's my
realizing
theory.
that there is no supervisor, it's just like a program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I also like have like a little bit of a theory, but I I think we gotta move on. So
Could you?
because mine involves like something that we learn in episode 4. So moving on to episode 3, we got the parent worrying about their kids, and the security droid comes in, and they say that it's really out of their hands because they're the kids are out past the barrier.
Yeah. More dysfunction in at Atten of like they they won't even go outside of the barrier, outside of the planet to find these children and like yikes.
Yeah, it does tell me that there's definitely bigger things going on in the background. Why are they so afraid of going outside the barrier?
Yeah.
And, was a little bit realistic feeling and a little disappointing for the parents.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and at this point, the kids, we did skip over this a little bit. They are with Silvo on their ship, um, and yeah, they're not sure if they can fully trust him, but they're really he's the only guy that has gotten them out of the spaceport, so they kind of need him.
Wim is
Yeah,
Wim is sure they can trust him.
yeah, we kind of skipped over it. So very quickly, the end of episode 2, they are put in a cell at the starport, and in the same cell is Silvo, who introduces himself as Jod Na Nawud and shows off a little bit of the Force, or what we think is the Force, by
Gotta be
floating
the
the cell
force.
key
Yeah,
over to them.
I do think he's force sensitive. I'm just not sure whether or not, he was part of the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
That's very questionable. Cuz I don't think we don't have an age for him, right?
I don't
I don't
think
know.
so.
Yeah, I'm not sure how old Jude Law is. So I can't say like what age like Star Wars is trying to go for Jod, but yeah, I don't think he was part of the Jedi Order. He's probably one of those kids that just were never part of it.
Yeah, never found.
Yeah, and so in episode 3, we're seeing him lead the charge on an escape plan with the children, trying to, use them to have a ship to escape, and a little
He has to
bit.
go back for SME or SM-33.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit grizzled and tired. He's being run around now by children. It's very very on brand for like a tired old man having to deal with 4 kids now just to get what he wants.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
man who's also a swindler.
Yeah. Who also thinks
Yeah.
he's getting to a treasure planet. You know?
And now we see him introduced with a third name being recognized as Crimson Jack on the starport,
Yeah.
and just gives us another question of who the heck is this guy?
Yeah. That's by Kim, that little owl lady, where she calls him Crimson Jack.
Yeah, he took the kids to see her so to try and get coordinates to Aten because she has like a bunch of star maps. And yeah, I feel so bad. She seemed so sweet. And
Yes.
and he just destroyed all of her work. Like once the coordinates were like she was just trying to help the kid.
Yeah, I
She
really
seemed
liked her character.
she seemed sweet on the kids, but if she's in dealings with pirates, I feel like there's probably a little more depth and a little more backhandedness that we didn't see. She was very secure on her thing, having cameras everywhere, and
Yeah.
uh,
Well, it
I'd
was
be interested to
my sorry.
I'd be interested to have her show back up and see, what is her real personality when she deals with someone that she doesn't have to distract and uh, keep so that the New Republic can come in and try and swoop them up.
Yeah. It was my understand or how I interpreted it, I guess, was that it was like a long time ago she used to work with, the pirates, and she's turned her life around to more astrogation and star charts and stuff. So she like was ready to turn uh Silvo, Jod, Crimson Jack, whatever you want to call him. He was like on site. He was turned in to the authorities.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, at that point the kids know that this guy he's a bit sketchy. So it I did find it very enjoyable, like watching them and like negotiate with Jod uh, to make sure that they are in charge and not him. If he wants to continue like being with them, like he's got to be under their control.
I will ask, since we're talking about the New Republic, did you think that um when the X-wing landed, did you think it was going to be Carson Teva that came out of that cockpit?
Absolutely. I was like, he's been in every show. Like,
Yeah.
I think in every show he's popped up. He's that one X-wing guy. So it was a surprise to see a different X-wing guy.
I'm glad it wasn't him, but like it was flying and it was clearly landing, and I was like, "Oh my god, is this going to be Carson Teva again?" It would have made the entire galaxy seem so small, but I'm glad it wasn't. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I didn't actually think it would be him. I just assumed because more so because they just kind of escaped them. I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a no-name X-wing pilot, just like a police officer kind of deal.
Yeah.
And with that, we lead into the final episode of today, episode 4. Can't say I remember no Aten.
Yes.
And I liked this episode a lot.
This was a really good episode.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
At the very beginning, they had me a little fooled. I was thinking, "Oh my god, are we in some sort of time paradox with the barrier?"
That's what
Because
I
I
thought
was,
too.
yeah, I was like, Old Republic credits, they leave the barrier, we can't do anything. Is it like in its own pocket, like, of time? And now we're seeing the remnants, like, after the war and all that. But,
Yeah. My thought was, oh my gosh, are we getting into world between worlds stuff and like that kind of time travel? I was like, there's no way. That would have been wild. I wouldn't have known like how to feel about that because I was like, would figure that'd be like an Ahsoka show thing, which spoiler alert, they didn't do that. It's just a different planet.
Yeah,
yeah, which I'm
my
kinda
my
glad about.
Yeah.
yeah, my first thought was it's probably a different planet. I like I don't know. Like I understand like where your guys minds went to the like a time paradox thing, but I don't know. There was just like I just felt like as soon as they got on the planet and it was different, like something was going on. Like I couldn't imagine them having like something happening to the planet like that quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought there it was a different planet.
They're
And
just smarter than us.
I think that our thought is still defendable because if we're going from Old Republic time, considering they had Old Republic credits, all the way to New Republic time, I feel like the planet could decay pretty far in that amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, maybe my mind just didn't go there. So I just assumed it was a different planet. Um but yeah, I did find it very funny that the kids like went to go look and scout like what was going on and had SM-33 babysit Jod on the ship.
Oh my god, I loved that scene, babysitting protocol.
Yeah.
That was great.
It was very good.
Yeah.
Interesting conflict here on the planet at Akron, between the Troiks and the Hattons. I kind of love it because it's so starkly different to at Atten with this almost like dystopian utopia of at Atten, and then you have just like, oh yeah, we've been in a civil war for you know generations and we don't even know why it started, but we just know that we don't like these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as like I saw that, I that this is where my theory comes in. Like I like and then of course like spoiler alert, later like we find out that there are more sister planet. Uh there's some like experimentation going on. I don't know to what end, but I feel like the great work has to do with like maybe finding out like what kind of like circumstances would create for like I don't like different outcomes on each planet because each of the planets does like they sound very similar, so I feel like there's some sort of like experiment going on each planet and the supervisor is like
Mm,
keeping watch of all of them.
That's a really
interesting.
interesting take. I like that a lot.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a couple other planets. I'm sure like through the last like couple episodes we have we'll explore that. But going back to at Akron, what we have now, uh seeing the kids like not only like start like looking like they were very excited like once they found out the children on at Akron were treated as adults and seeing that like training like they seemed very excited at first except for Neil, our soft boy Neil, like precious little guy. um he yeah, I feel like Neil like really showed is it Hena? I believe it
Yes.
was pronounced.
Yeah, the soldier, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like him introducing, kindness to the planet will definitely like impact it in the future. I hope at least. Um, but it was very interesting to see like the kids like they were so excited training, and then like once the um general told them that they were gonna go and lead the their little invasion to get their Eops back. They were frightened, and rightfully so.
Yeah. Going back to Neil, since you brought it up, I really like the relationship that Neil and Wim have. And I feel like it really comes to fruition in an interesting way in this episode, is because, it's like we said in the first episode, it's Neil and Wim who are, you know, uh uh doing, fake lightsaber battles with each other. And you have Wim's idea of like a Jedi, and like, oh, I want to go on all of these adventures. He's always reading these stories about these great Jedi adventures. um and then in this episode you have Neil, the one who is actually acting the most Jedi like, of, hey, like, what's with all the fighting? Like, the best way to solve this conflict is to not fight, which is very, very Jedi. And I feel like that's such an interesting take, since it's so clear that Wim is just so head over heels for the Jedi, and then you have Neil here who is acting more Jedi like than him.
I think it is interesting, but also in universe, you got to think that the Jedi, when they were popular, would have been the Clone Wars when the Jedi were generals, not, you know, a religious
That is
cult.
true. That
You
is
know,
true.
they talk about in the lore that Obi-Wan and Anakin were the poster boys of the Clone Wars because of how many missions and how flashy their fighting was. And um, you know, it's not because, oh, Obi-Wan was a negotiator. It was, oh, this is how many missions he completed. And Anakin was popular because he, the chosen one. I don't know if that was publicized in universe, but he was one of the top generals in the Republic at such a young age. And, that's what they're gonna, people like Wim, they're gonna see that and be like, man, I wanna fight like them. I wanna be super
Yeah.
cool. And that's what they idolize, not so much the kindness and forgiveness of the Jedi code.
Yeah. I guess that's true. That is
Yeah,
true.
but we also do have to take into account like this is a very different time of the Jedi that like he is referencing. And I do remember a couple of people like translating um some of the stories that he was reading, and it read like myth. So I really like I am very curious to see like what like if we get any more of a glimpse of like what kind of Jedi and like what era like that he is like idolizing, because I feel like as time has gone on the Jedi have gone through many different like iterations of themselves.
Yeah. That is very true.
Something I actually just thought about right now is if they're disconnected from the galaxy, they mentioned they didn't even know the war.
Yeah.
That is
And
true.
so that changes my answer entirely. They would be idolizing
Yeah.
the old Republic.
Yeah.
And yeah, they
We
are
don't know
more of
too much.
a religious cult back then. But I know that
Yeah.
maybe it references the Sith Wars and stuff. That's the kind of stuff maybe he's looking at.
Maybe. But
But
we also don't have too much in like confirmed canon on the old Republic and before.
which I am
So,
absolutely excited to see more of. God, why did they
oh,
have to cancel the Acolyte, bro?
please give me more. Um Anyways, so after the, this little shindig where Jod uh was, you know, um shows up with the EOBs and kind of stops the fight for now. They're brought back to see the fallen sanctum where the supervisor of Ad-Atten would be, but on this planet. Um, where we find out that SM-33 was here. He knows where Ad-Atten is, and he has been charged to keep everyone else away from it. And he turns and attacks. That was crazy. Him like his posture changing and him like growing. That was nuts.
I love his offensive form.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very imposing, him getting stanced up and extending his
Yeah.
arms out.
Yeah. I also did like seeing the kids. They're starting to realize that they're a bit in over their heads, especially Fern and Wim finally, like, I think, like, realizing and responding like to her emotions that, like, oh, this is kind of serious. Um so yeah, I am glad to see that there is like a little bit of character growth happening here, and I'm excited to see like where they go from here. I also like Neil like stepping up and distracting SM-33 so that like the other kids weren't um injured or killed, you know.
More Jedi behavior.
Yeah, this episode kind of subverted my expectations because going in, seeing Hana, I was immediately thinking, oh, this is going to be character development for Fern. You know, she sees herself as the strong girl, the leader, the captain, whatever. And then we get to actually see a young girl, maybe a little older than her, who's actually been fighting and, you know, is actually strong and independent. And I was expecting her to learn from her. And they did subvert that, seeing uh, instead of Fern learning from Hana, Hana learns from Neil and
Yeah.
learns kindness, which I feel like is a lot more on brand for a children's show or one that's more pointed towards kids.
Hmm.
Um, but to see, you know, as small as it was, Wim and Fern have a little development together was nice, as they're probably like the main two
Yeah.
characters out of the four.
I did like that a lot because I feel like a lot of like, more kids oriented shows where like a child is the main character, it really kind of gets into, and I think it's like fine, but it gets into like the child's fantasy of like, oh, I know what's best. My parents don't know what they're talking about, and I'm actually much more competent and all this stuff, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think we get like a really good portrayal of that in Rebels with Ezra. He's kind of like he's a kid, and but he's very like competent still and all that. But here we get Fern, like, and we it kind of reminds us of like, oh my god, these are just children, and they're lost and they just want to get home, and it's like very like heartwarming and wholesome, but you just kind of like feel for them of like, oh my god, like they're kids and they're just trying their best.
Yeah,
I
it's a
really liked it.
big galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as they left the barrier, I was like, "Oh my god, how are they gonna get home?" Like even if Atten like wasn't um, you know,
A
A
mystery.
myth.
hidden. Yeah. So, yeah, I hope that they can figure it out. I mean, now they have SM-33 asleep or like, turned off, so I'm sure they will try to figure out like what his previous captain did. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like the first 4 episodes, like, I think they did a very good job, especially like with the time that they had. They packed each episode with a lot of detail and I feel like a lot of heart.
I 100% agree. I was gonna ask what would you guys rate the show like out of 10 as of right now? Episode 4,
Oh
halfway through.
man.
I don't know. I'm really enjoying it, and I don't really have anything negative specifically
Yeah,
with the show.
I'm thinking like solid easy 9 for me at least.
Yeah, I think the same.
Wow. I'm thinking closer to 8. Uh
Okay.
just, I might not be the target audience. I'm definitely not the target audience, but I feel like a 10 out of 10 show is very hard, and I feel like a 9 out of 10, um as much as this show is doing, it would probably have more depth, and I feel like that's a flaw of 8 episode shows.
I mean, yes.
Um
I
but
I agree.
I love this type of content. It is more filler to the overall Star Wars timeline, but I think it's absolutely necessary, and we just get to have more Star Wars, which always a good thing.
I
And
agree. I would agree that it is filler, but I think filler is necessary sometimes
Yeah.
because like that's just world building and you know, not everything can be Skywalker Saga, you know?
Yeah, bring back filler, not just for Star Wars, all shows. I miss it. You get to sit in the world, and characters often develop in filler.
let's go with
Yes.
specifically good filler and thought out filler, not just like, oh hey, beach episode.
Of
I
course.
mean, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Hey,
more
hey,
Avatar, Leaves from the Vine type of vibe.
I was just gonna bring up Avatar as well because
Yep.
they also had a beach episode and it was pretty good.
Yeah, that's true.
Give background.
Yeah, it was world building, it was character building.
Yeah, when the filler services the series, I think it's absolutely worth it. And I think,
100%, yeah.
Star Wars is big enough that we can have a lot of filler. And something this whole show, especially the first episode, it gives me the vibe of like any episode of Clone Wars and Rebels that Hondo is in.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I
Which
miss Hondo.
pirate, but also just the nonsense and tomfoolery, especially in Rebels.
He was
I
so
love
kooky in
those
Rebels.
in the best way. I'm a Hondo
Yes.
fan. And yeah, I think that's about all we have to say for Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Remember,
Part
this is
1.
part 1 of a 2-part little synopsis review.
Review? I guess,
A
yeah.
little more review than synopsis. We don't go
Yeah.
through everything.
But
Our
yeah,
thoughts.
so if you enjoyed the content, please leave a like and subscribe. We'll be uploading part 2 probably the week that the final episode of Skeleton Crew comes out.
Yes.
Woohoo.
And so if you're looking forward to that, drop it down in the comments. Let us know if there's anything that you liked specifically or didn't like in this show. Give us your thoughts, and yeah, until next time. Thank you very
Thank
much for
you.
watching.
Bye.